All right. Hello, guys. Welcome. I say, guys, Mum, Dim. Um, yeah, welcome to my podcast. I'm gonna start very quickly by kind of addressing the name of the podcast, which is Document versus Create with Christos Creates. Christos Creates being me. I've been wanting to start a podcast now for probably coming up to a year. And the reason I haven't started it is because of crappy excuses as to, wanting to get it perfect, always finding an excuse why I couldn't start it. And I guess I was also really trying to find a niche, really trying to find something, a gap, this, the other. But then, the more I was doing that, the more time was passing by. And for me, creating a podcast is really just to document my journey personally. And if I can touch a few people in a year, 2 years time with my story, then that'll be amazing. If not, hopefully the grandkids will watch and they will get inspired. So just to give you a bit of background about myself, I go under Christos Creates because I'm Greek. I have been blessed with a wonderful Greek surname, which, I just think Creates goes a little bit smoother. I'm a freelance videographer. I've been doing this now coming up to a year. And the story of how this kind of started for me, I was in the corporate world for 10 years, working, a 9-to-5 job. Just life was passing by. And then all of a sudden that all came crashing down when I was fired from my job. I was fired in that lovely way where you end up walking away with a little bit of money. So that gave me the opportunity to take a little break. And the story of how I got behind a camera and, started making this my living, as a freelancer. What do you classify as this is your living? I guess being able to cover your costs on a monthly basis through video work. I'm a massive, one of my biggest passions is Panathinaikos, which is a Greek football team. You probably haven't heard of it. But I was inspired by Arsenal Fan TV. So I decided to do the same thing over in Greece. So I purchased a Canon M50. Headed over there for, I think it was a month to start with, to cover like 3 or 4 games. And I went over there. And the thing I learned and where the inspiration came from is I would always try to find someone to hold the camera, someone so I can interview the fans. And I could never find someone that would just get it right, that would just understand where they need to be, how they need to be, what they need to do, all this kind of stuff. And for me, it was like very frustrating because I was like, how can you not understand what makes sense? Like for me, if I'm standing here, you holding the camera super high or super low, this, the other. Back then, I didn't really know any technicalities or anything like that. I would just see it and I'd be like, what is he doing? But actually what I realized was that I just had a bit of a gift for it. I would just understand how it should look. And what I thought was actually common sense was not for the other person. So then I was like, okay, let me get behind this camera and try something. So after that, I just I started watching a lot of YouTube videos and playing around with the Canon, and then I was like, all right, this feels comfortable, this feels good. And that was it. That was when I ended up buying a few more equipment for myself, lighting, audio, and stuff like that. And then I just got my first gig, a paid job. Well, actually, I did a couple of free ones to start with, and then out of nowhere, I'll tell you the story. The first ever work I did was actually a dancer, and I did a couple of free ones, and then she then was like, hey, do you want to come and film again? How much would you charge for what you did last time for free? Gave her the price, and that was it. And then since then, just gave me that confidence to go one after the other, and just that's really how it started. All right, just a little bit about what this podcast will be about in terms of there is going to be a bit of structure, not just going to be me rambling about XYZ. The aim of this podcast is to actually have conversations with other videographers similar to where I am in their career, and focus on the videographers that are really documenting their journey. I believe, as you know, in the industry that we're in, it's all about the fancy stuff, and everyone wants to show the best side, especially on Instagram and social media. I really want to speak to those people that are just documenting day to day and just really just showing the struggle, not this fake Instagram world that, you know, how perfect everything is. It really inspires me. It really is really something I want to push out there and, you know, hopefully motivate other people to do as well. Because the reality is I'm not an expert in anything, which is a bit depressing when I think about it. Side note, I mean, I know what I'm doing, but you know, there's videographers, there's filmmakers out there that, you know, are way more established than I am. So I'm not here to tell you what to do, how to do it. I'm here to just share other people's stories that are in a similar position as you, and just to give you a little bit of and I will wrap up with this, is the real inspiration for starting this. It was another podcast I was listening to. It's the filmmaker podcast. Fantastic podcast, by the way, and I would definitely recommend you listening to that as well. You know, that podcast was inspiring me, was giving me a lot of tips about how to do the technical stuff. But and this is in no means me saying anything bad about the podcast, but it's just where I felt the disconnect with that podcast was, I felt that, you know, the people in that podcast was way ahead where I was. Therefore, it all kind of felt too far for me to relate. And, you know, people can share stories of, you know, this is how it was when I started and so, but I think the real emotion of listening to someone who's really going through it at the time, for me personally, is very powerful. So I guess this is my little niche that I think I'm going for, and I hope that, you know, when this goes out, and if you're interested and you want to be part of this, and you think you are in this kind of situation in your life and you want to share your story, this is who you will listen to in this podcast. This is who you're going to hear. So yeah, I hope that you like the sound of that, and yeah, I'm gonna just wrap this up awkwardly because it's my first one. All right.